Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we have got another 5 clips for horror. This is Holiday Hell. This is part 13. And we will get right into it. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's go!
You know, all of us are guilty sometimes of taking the things that we have and the people around us for granted. But if you're a regular viewer on this channel, you'll know that a normal day can turn into your last within just a second. I'm Ryan from Tragedy Tales, and today we're going to take another peek over Oblivion. Once more, I've scoured far and wide for 5 more shocking and unbelievable clips from the man who put too much faith in locals while parasailing to the ridiculous Christmas Eve Boxburg blast. This week, we've got clips from far and wide, guaranteed to leave you dizzy. So grab a drink and strap in. Let's get right into it. Parasailing. You're strapped into a harness with a parachute, you're then attached to a boat, this boat then speeds up, and suddenly, you're in the air, you're flying. It's a quick and easy way for tourists to see the local area from above, and for locals to make a quick profit. However, parasailing is far from safe. Most parasailing accidents result in serious, catastrophic injuries, or even fatalities.
Thank God I'll never do it. Nope. I won't do anything where I may not be able to control where I am in water because I can't swim, and I'm not messing with that.
Dangers, amongst other things, include the rope snapping or rogue gusts of wind, leaving you free floating with no control before you slam into a building and die. There's also a possibility of potentially dropping straight out of the harness. Also, even if you fall a small height, drowning wrapped up in your parachute is also a real high risk. Like any other high-risk sport, anything can go wrong at any time. No matter what you sign, no matter what you wear, life can be taken at a moment's notice. With that in mind, this entry begins on July the 12th, 2017, on the Kata Beach in Phuket, Thailand. On that day, the Kata Beach was bustling with activity. The pristine sands and the clear blue waters were filled with tourists enjoying the various water sports activities, creating a vibrant and lively atmosphere. Among the many visitors that day was Roger John Hussey, a 70-year-old Australian businessman who was on holiday.
Oh, Hussey! I heard a different word. I'm not gonna. I just heard a different word. My stupid brain wasn't fully.
With his Thai wife, Busabong. Now, Roger was known for his adventurous spirit. He had spent several days watching others parasail, and he was eager to try it himself. Thinking that this would be harmless and fun, Roger signed up to do the parasailing. He signed a few forms, and before he knew it, he was being suited up on the sandy beach, speedboat ready to go. Now, this is when the video in question was captured. It was recorded by his wife, and it shows Roger preparing for the parasailing adventure, all while smiling. The 2 parasailing operators strapped him into the harness and assured him of the equipment's safety. Now, watching the video is a bit strange, to be honest. It captures 2 minutes of these locals suiting up Roger in almost complete silence. If it was me, I'd, be beating the bush a bit of banter, but no, this was almost totally silent, as if they knew what was coming.
Well, there's no way the people who operate this know plan for everyone to die that does it. Unless maybe they do. Some new way to be a serial killer. Just plan a sport where accidents can go wrong and people just keep dying.
Brief safety instructions were then given, and safety checks were supposedly completed before Roger was all ready and suited up to take flight. All captured on video, it shows Roger begin to take flight as the boat accelerates. Roger was quickly lifted up into the air. He was flying. The parasail caught the wind and instantly carried him high above the beach. Initially, this seemed like the perfect adventure. However, literally 13 seconds into the flight, Roger can be seen grabbing something on the harness, and within a blink of an eye, he became loose and fell through the air. All recorded by his wife, without even flinching, I might add. You can see Roger falling around 100 feet, or around 30 meters, into the shallow water below. The video captures the horrifying moment.
Hold on, hold on, so if he touches the damn thing, did he release himself from the fucking harness? Did he cause himself to fall?
As beachgoers, including his wife, watched in shock. Despite being rushed to the nearest hospital, Roger was pronounced dead at arrival. Now, the police instantly questioned the operators that took him up into the air, and they officially claimed that Roger had unbuckled his harness out of panic, stating that they were not to fault and that their equipment was done to standard. This statement...
Some people also blame the guy directly, stating that the way he jumped atop Roger caused him to slip.
Was strongly refuted by his wife and other witnesses that were there that day. They stated that Roger was in good spirits. He had no reason to tamper with his harness. He wasn't panicked or even stressed out, leading them to believe that the harness must have been faulty. Upon reviewing the video, parasailing expert Damien Ward, a veteran with over 10 years experience in parasailing, said that he was unsure why there was 2 loose straps hanging down at the front of the safety harness. He said that this harness was banned in Australia and other parts of the world, saying that it's a completely different setup.
Oh, so these people are using the banned version of a harness. Oh, that's fucking great. That makes that safety.
He said that we run a bum strap or soft swing, which in Australia is mandatory, adding that the bit that they were tightening in the video around the chest was to hold the weight of the line. If your arms were to go up, you'll fall straight out. Shortly after the incident, the parasailing operators and the boat driver, along with the staff member that was on the parasail, were arrested and charged with reckless behaviour causing death. This investigation revealed that the equipment was pretty shoddy and that the parasail boat was operating without a technician on board, making it technically illegal and making it look even worse for them. To add insult to injury, shocking footage emerged shortly after, showing the exact same parasail operators at the same beach standing barefoot on the tatty ropes, again raising serious concerns about the lack of safety in these operations.
Three parasailers caught with unsafe equipment. This was 2 years later, same beach. Wow.
This tragic incident underscores the importance of stringent safety measures and proper management in adventure sports. Sadly, this kind of thing occurs quite frequently. I only recently covered a case that unfolded in Russia, where a lady called Anna was taken on a paramotor tour by some random dude who approached her. It turned out that he had no license whatsoever, and they suffered a fatal crash after falling apart mid-air. I've said this before, but if you're on holiday, or even if you're at home, just check their papers, because any one of us could fall victim to this. We've all heard of the phrase, the captain goes down with the ship. In maritime law, when something goes terribly wrong, the captain is ultimately responsible for both the vessel and everyone that embarked, ensuring that he's last to leave in an emergency. Failure to do so can and will have legal repercussions. This law, of course, doesn't really apply to land vehicles. However, that didn't stop 48-year-old bus driver Wu Bin going above and beyond to keep his passengers safe in their time of need. That day of May the 29th, 2012, Wu Bin had started his usual bus route from Wuxi to Hangzhou with approximately 24 individuals on board. Starting as a bus driver for Hangzhou Long Distance Transport Group in 2003, Wu was an expert driver and had almost 10 years of service under his belt at the time of this incident. As is often the case with these videos, everything proceeds without any faults. Of course, as it did every day for the past 10 years. But at around halfway through the journey, as Wu was travelling on an expressway in the Jiangsu province, completely out of the blue, a random piece of metal came flying through the air, headed right towards the bus. With no time to react, it flew through the air and pierced the windscreen. This piece of metal turned out to be a brake pad from a car on the opposite expressway, but the impact was so severe that it went straight through the glass, straight through Wu's stomach and his arm. This is something right out of Final Destination. It's the reason I don't drive behind them big trucks with the logs. I'm scared he's going to come out and kill me. I would have probably passed out from the pain and crashed the bus. But for Wu, however, his training and experience kicked in. His well-being barely even crossed his mind. Within those few moments of being struck, instead of collapsing and crashing the bus in the process, instead, Wu kept his cool and managed to get the bus to come to a controlled stop on the expressway. Even after stopping, Wu showed amazing composure as he held his stomach together, opening the doors and directing his passengers to safety. Even then, he didn't stop. He warned them of the danger of the passing cars and directed them to where they should wait. After getting everyone to safety, Wu then collapsed on the ground due to his injuries. Wu had suffered.
Holy shit! So he spent his last lying breaths, his last final ounce of energies, to make sure his passengers were safe and weren't in risk of getting hurt. Literally, the moment he finished doing that, collapses. It's like it was his final act.
Suffered a terrible liver laceration and multiple rib fractures. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Wu sadly passed away later that evening. His actions that day almost certainly saved the lives of all of his passengers in exchange for his. Wu's story soon hit mainstream Chinese and international news, where his bravery and selflessness were celebrated. He quickly became widely recognized as a national hero in China. He was treated with honor and awarded for his actions.
As he should be.
Being hailed as China's most virtuous driver. Government officials even visited his family home and awarded his family with $14,000 or around 11,000 Great British pounds in cash. On June the 4th, Wu was laid to rest in an open casket, and thousands of Hangzhou citizens attended to show their respects. On that fateful
More than 10,000 people gathered for the funeral. Holy shit.
day, despite sustaining fatal injuries, Wu's unwavering commitment to the safety of his passengers clearly shone through. He was a captain that very much went down with the ship. His ability to control the bus and ensure his passengers exited safely, even while bleeding out, experiencing excruciating pain, highlights the depth of his character and his dedication to the role. His legacy continues to inspire, ensuring that he will forever be remembered, not as a bus driver, but as a hero. Waiting in a queue can get frustrating sometimes.
Yes, it can. Talking about someone whose family was not built with patience. I have some. Although it's a pain in the ass sometimes.
I personally can't stand them. Every time I go to Alton Towers, I always get a fast pass because I'm seriously impatient. All of us have places to go and people to see, but is it just me, or does it seem that every time you go to the post office, there's always one dude holding up the queue, counting pennies or arguing with the staff? While you're waiting in there, time seems to go in slow motion. While it is a stressful environment, a queue very rarely ends up in tragedy. But sadly, however, This is exactly what unfolded at the Lloyds Bank branch in Welwyn Garden City in Herefordshire on the 6th of December 2021. On that cold December's day, 82-year-old mother of four Mrs. Coutinho Lopez arrived at the Lloyds Bank to withdraw some money. She made her way to the front of the queue and made her request. Unfortunately, Ms. Lopez suffered from dementia, a debilitating brain disease. This meant that she had issues reading her bank statement, and this is what caused the argument. She was there at the front of the queue, trying to argue the fact that there was the money in the account, but the bank teller said that there wasn't any funds and that she could not withdraw it. Of course, this confusion led to frustration, and this frustration led to anger. For 30 minutes, Ms. Lopez argued with the bank teller, adamant that she was due her money, all while customers patiently waited their turn. As the time went on, the queue got longer and longer, and their frustration only got worse. Eventually, Ms. Lopez couldn't get the money out, and she gave up and began to storm out the bank in a huff. All captured on CCTV, Ms. Lopez can be seen finally moving away from the counter, and as she did so, another customer in the queue chose this opportunity to open her mouth and make a snide remark. 26-year-old Courtney Richmond shouted at Ms. Lopez as she exited the bank and said, "Hurry up, people don't have all day," while sarcastically clapping in applause. She yelled back, "Don't speak to me like that. You are very rude. I bet your boyfriend has left you." In this same moment, Miss Lopez approached Courtney and swung her handbag at her profusely. Now, while this could be considered assault, realistically, being hit by an 82-year-old woman's handbag is as much of an assault as being smacked by a baby. Despite this though, whether it was the comment that Miss Lopez made to Courtney, or perhaps swinging the bag at her, or possibly it was the fact that she'd been held up for half an hour, this upset Courtney enough to retaliate and shove the elderly Miss Lopez to the ground. As seen on the CCTV, the push caused her to land on her hip and shoulder. I'm pretty sure this was not reasonable force for what Courtney was assaulted with.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
Because almost 30 seconds later, Miss Lopez could still not get up despite people helping her. By the 50-second mark of the CCTV, it seems that one of the bank tellers had gone to call an ambulance, and by this point, Courtney, possibly realising the severity of her actions, could be seen leaving the premises as onlookers made sure that she kept her distance from Miss Lopez. While Courtney managed to escape immediate police questioning, going home and having her tea, pretending like this didn't happen, the police knocked on her door the following day and arrested her for assault. Sadly, however, things did not get better for Miss Lopez. 10 days later, on the 16th of December, she succumbed to her injuries from the fall, surrounded by her friends and family. Because the elderly have little bone mass, they can break a bone easily and cause severe damage. Courtney should not have retaliated. Yes, she got smacked with a bag, but to retaliate like that was seriously uncalled for. Now that's just my opinion, but of course I'm interested as to what you guys would have done in her shoes.
I mean, I don't think in any scenario I'm going to shove. Like, if they hit me once with a bag, I mean, if a dude did this, I'm going by if it's a dude did this. If a dude walked over and hit me with a bag once, I'm probably not going to respond if it's an elderly dude. However, I will openly admit that if he kept hitting me more than once with that bag, there was a chance I'd shove his ass too. I'm going to openly admit. My attention will thing, but if you hit me multiple times, you're asking for a response. But yeah, if they hit me once, I'm just going to look at them and think, because, like I said, shove or break their ass.
Miss Lopez's daughter saw the CCTV footage and was shocked to see all of this take place in a bank. Apparently, Miss Lopez had frequented this bank often, meaning that the employees should have been aware of her dementia and made amendments so that she is catered for. For Courtney, who was initially arrested for assault, a simple trip to the bank had turned into a life-altering ordeal. Her charges were raised to manslaughter, and she was sentenced to 16 months imprisonment, suspended for 21 months, meaning she avoided any immediate imprisonment at the time. Courtney was also given a rehabilitation requirement lasting 15 to 25 days and was also ordered to complete 180 hours of unpaid work.
Okay, so this person got away with this. This woman got away with this. That's ridiculous. That's abysmal of a sentence for that. That's ridiculous.
Of course, Miss Lopez's family were fuming with the life
I
sentence.
would be too.
And the fact that she wouldn't be going straight to prison. But this story is a truly heartbreaking one. It shows how a decision made in anger can quickly ruin lives. It shows that a company's mismanagement can lead to frustration that causes customers to become confrontational with each other. But if you find yourself in this situation, don't retaliate and walk away, because you don't want to be on either end of this story. Bridges. They are truly amazing feats of
Bridges! That's it. Bridges.
engineering. Seriously, the amount of work that goes into building them is crazy. You've all seen James May trying to build one out of Meccano. It's actually a lot harder than you think. But despite the miracle that they often go unnoticed in our daily lives. We trust them implicitly to carry us over rivers and valleys, rarely even considering the potential for disaster. Yet, when something does go wrong, the results are often catastrophic. On March the 1st, 2024, an ordinary drive over a bridge would soon become something right out of a horror movie. That day, it was a clear, crisp morning in Louisville, Kentucky. The sun cast a golden hue over the drivers that were on the Clark Memorial Bridge, a bridge that spans the Ohio River, connecting Louisville to southern Indiana. One of the drivers that day was 26-year-old truck driver Sydney Thomas. Sydney had been driving for Cisco for 2 years. Her father also being a truck driver, she was a very experienced and highly trained individual. She'd been driving her scheduled delivery route that day, and at around noon, it was time to cross the Clark Memorial Bridge. All captured on the viral dashcam footage, the footage shows the cars moving steadily along the bridge. As Sydney's driving along, all of a sudden, the tranquility was shattered by the sight of a speeding pickup truck, driven by 33-year-old Trevor Branham. Now, Trevor was driving very recklessly, speeding and weaving dangerously through the traffic. Witnesses would later describe his driving as crazy, a ticking time bomb on wheels. After driving like a madman, eventually, Trevor's truck collided violently with a vehicle that had stalled on the bridge. Sydney's dashcam captured her immediate reaction as she tried desperately to steer clear of the chaos that was unfolding in front of her eyes. As the pickup truck barreled out of control, it crossed onto the opposite lanes. In a desperate attempt to avoid further collision, Sydney swerved her tractor-trailer forward towards the railing of the bridge, right towards the river below. The heavy truck, of course, plowed through the railing with no problem, the dashcam capturing absolute horror as the cab tilted forward, looking like it was the end. However, miraculously, the dust settled and the cab had not fallen into the water. Amazingly, despite ploughing through the railings, the majority of Sydney's truck remained on the bridge. The cab was now dangling 80 feet above the river, a very horrible situation to find yourself in.
Holy shit.
Emergency sirens wailed in the air.
Look at that! Look at this! That is terrifying!
As the fire department arrived swiftly and worked to stabilize the situation. But this would be no regular rescue. Firefighter Bruce Carden, who specializes in high-angle rescues, was sent to the scene along with other emergency teams. Here, they drafted a daring rescue to save Sydney before the whole truck fell in. Now, the rescue operation turned out to be a complex one, involving a combination of rope rescues and stabilizing the truck to prevent it from plummeting into the river. Once Bryce had reached the cab, he found Sydney remarkably calm despite this terrible situation that she was in. An agonizing 45 minutes of dangling later, Sydney was secured into her harness, and ever so carefully, Bryce and her were slowly lifted back to safety. Sydney was taken to a nearby hospital, but she'd escaped with only minor injuries. Meanwhile, Trevor, the driver of the truck, was detained at the scene and later charged with 4 counts of endangerment and operating on a suspended license. Despite his attorney's argument,
He clearly looks well aware of his actions. He looks like he couldn't give one single fuck that anything happened because of him.
Arguments for lesser charges, saying that there was no serious injuries or deaths. The footage speaks volumes about the danger that he posed on the road, setting his bail to $20,000 US. As the grand jury prepares to review this case, it serves as a stark reminder of how quickly a routine day can turn into a fight for survival, and it's a true testament to the rescue teams that were on hand that day. If it weren't for them, Sydney would have almost certainly died from that fall. This whole ordeal, of course, affected her profoundly, both emotionally and psychologically. While Sydney was grateful for her rescue, she vowed to never drive across the Clark Memorial Bridge again, and said that she won't be returning to driving trucks anytime soon.
Damn. The job she did, and that she's scared to do her job now because of idiots on the road. She's scared to drive trucks because of idiots that are on the fucking road. Because of that fucking idiot that caused her to almost fucking die.
This absolutely crazy footage was recorded in Boksburg, South Africa, on Christmas Eve 2022. That serene Christmas Eve morning began like any other for the residents of Boksburg, but it would soon turn into a day of unimaginable horror, leaving a permanent mark on the town and its residents. Home to almost 500,000 people, Boksburg is known for its close-knit community and peaceful residential areas. That morning, many were still fast asleep, wrapped in the stillness of early dawn, wrapped in the warmth of their homes, totally unaware of the impending danger. At 6:15 a.m, the sun began to peek its head above the horizon, and people started getting up for work. However, the workday had begun much earlier for an unnamed 32-year-old night shift truck driver who was tasked with transporting highly pressurized liquid petroleum gas from Richards Bay to Botswana. As his shift neared its end, the unnamed driver, he somehow got confused and ended up taking a wrong turn, leading him down a route that was not authorized by his company. Taking a quick look down, it looked like it would also lead him back to his route, so he continued on. However, as he did, he took a left turn and he was met with a low bridge situated near Tambo Memorial Hospital, surrounded by residential homes. As he came up to it, the bridge looked quite low, so he pulled over and assessed how low it was. After taking a very good look, it looked like it would fit, so he hopped back into his truck and slammed on the accelerator. Of course, the truck fit under no problem at the start. However, the incline of the bridge lifted the rear of the tanker as he proceeded, causing it to scrape against the top. The sound of metal against metal echoed through the morning stillness, followed by the sinister hiss of escaping gas. The driver, alarmed by the noise, halted the vehicle and got out to inspect the damage, and to his horror, he discovered that the tanker cap had been severely damaged and that liquid petroleum gas was leaking at a crazy rate. Liquid petroleum gas, or LPG, being heavier than air, silently and invisibly spread along the road and the surrounding area. The situation quickly turned dark.
Oh, I know this one! I saw a clip of this, I don't remember where. But I saw this clip and I thought it was the most insane fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I still think it's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, because a single spark could instantly trigger a catastrophic explosion. The driver's job at this...
Oh, it wasn't the same clip. Okay, but that, I mean, it fucking looked like it. Holy shit. That thing looks insane. That one clip is insane.
...stage was to call emergency services, secure the area, and stop people approaching the scene. At 6:29 a.m, the driver desperately dialed emergency services, but shockingly, his calls went unanswered. The police and fire department ignored his calls. With growing desperation, the driver made several more attempts to reach emergency responders on several numbers, but these too were ignored.
What the who has 911 or whatever fucking names? Who just has emergency services just unavailable?
As precious minutes ticked away, curious onlookers began to gather around the stuck tanker. Residents, unaware or uneducated about the lethal danger, approached the scene, some even taking selfies and videos to post online. And
I think, okay, I'm gonna make a statement here. I don't care if it gets me in trouble. If you see a burning tanker, a tanker that's leaking gas that could set on fire, and the first thing that comes to your head is I'm gonna go take a selfie next to it. If that tanker happens to explode, I don't think I can have sympathy for you. Because there's a certain level, I don't think that's uneducated. Because I don't know full thing about gas and fire. But if I see a tanker burning gas, the last thing I'm fucking doing is going near it, one, and then take a selfie next to it. Idiots.
and sent to their friends. The truck driver tried to warn them, but without any police presence on the scene, it was almost impossible to control the crowd. His shouts and warnings fell onto deaf ears. Finally, after around 20 minutes and 8 frantic phone calls to emergency services, the driver's company, ISS, finally got through to the fire department directly, as the police had still not answered the phone. He explained the situation, emphasizing the leaking gas and the urgent need for intervention.
Hello?
Good morning. This is Boksburg Fire Department.
You're looking for?
Boksburg Fire Department.
Okay.
I've got a truck that's stuck on Railway Street under the bridge, and the gas is leaking.
There's no one there.
Our driver is...
The fire department, located just 2 minutes away, was alerted, and they arrived shortly after 10 to 7. By the time the fire engines reached the scene, the truck had already caught fire, the flames danced menacingly around the tanker, but this only attracted more locals. Because of the awkward position of where the truck was actually stuck, and the danger of being so close, fire teams struggled to get the flames under control. They grew in size exponentially. At 5 minutes past 7, the truck driver's company tried to contact him again, but there was no answer. As there was no police, the driver had stayed valiantly near the truck, risking his life to direct people away from the danger, all while inhaling the toxic fumes. He had done this until he literally passed out unconscious. He was taken to the hospital, and a randomer confirmed that he was okay.
Weet jy ek as ons saam met die drywer nê?
Ja, ek wil net hê almal moet so ver weg bly as moontlik.
Dis wat ons probeer want die mense staan net plet op 'n nou toe ons probeer dit nie.
At this point, the truck was now completely engulfed in flames. There was no controlling it. As a crowd surged, watching eagerly nearby, still the police had not arrived. At around 5 minutes past 7, the gas ignited, resulting in a...
The police in this area are idiots. I'm just gonna say that for you. You police, you have 2 officers that work in 9 to 5, so what the fucking 5 o'clock is, they just don't do their fucking job until like, that's what's going on here. What the fuck?
Small explosion. This small explosion, amazingly, only attracted more people. Over the next 20 minutes, more and more people gathered to watch the explosion, and 2 more explosions occurred then after.
Yo, guys. Do you think the people involved are alive, bruh? The driver, the person who was in the car, do you think they survived? It's gonna pop again.
Fucking morons.
At around 7:30 a.m., the unthinkable occurred. Just as the crowd had reached its peak, the truck exploded for a 4th and final time. This explosion was much, much stronger than the others. This 4th explosion ripped through the area and affected buildings up to 1,300 feet away, or around 400 meters. The blast was so powerful, it was heard from miles away, and even felt as an earth tremor as far as 4 kilometers away. 2 houses and a number of cars were instantly destroyed in the explosion. The train lines above collapsed, and so did the bridge, sending debris flying into the sky and then unleashing a wall of flames that tore through the nearby crowd and nearby homes. The once peaceful Christmas Eve morning had turned into a scene of chaos, tragedy, and horror. The force of the blast inflicted severe third-degree burns on all those in the surrounding vicinity. The skin literally melted off of their muscles.
I mean, I have to feel sympathy for them, but I also don't, because, like, you're dealing with serious degree burns, so, like, you suffering. But I feel like this can't be something of lack of knowledge. This has to be a bunch of idiots. Because, again, I see a fire, I'm staying far the fuck away. I'm not staying around the fucking filming.
The horrifying screams of the injured and the wails of the sirens filled the air as ambulances rushed to the scene. When they got there, it was clear that this was a tragedy beyond comprehension, and most importantly, a totally avoidable one. Despite the police station being just 2 minutes away from the location, they did not attend the scene to crowd control until 50 minutes after this blast. That is just ridiculous.
Agreed.
When asked, local law enforcement declined to give a statement.
We didn't want to show up, that's it. We wanted some casualties, that's what they wanted.
The damage and the death toll was...
They're idiot. This whole fucking thing is full of idiots. The people watching are idiots, the police are idiots, fire department are idiots just because of the fact how fucking long it took to get a hold of them.
Catastrophic,
I suppose no people aren't dead in this city. Their police could not give a shit to do their job.
to say the least. Footage online showed streets filled with charred, still bodies, still smoking on the ground. An absolute terror.
South Africa, 8 people have been killed and multiple feared injured after a gas tanker caught fire in Boksburg City. Emergency services say 6 firefighters have also been injured in the explosion and are being treated at the nearby hospital.
At least 8 people have been killed in a gas tanker explosion in Boksburg. Several others have been seriously injured.
That was a sight I want to see. There were people, clothes melted onto them. There's one guy with no leg, a young kid with no arm. There were people just all over the place.
8 people were killed instantly from the blast, and 40 more were initially injured and hospitalized. Sadly, these injuries would prove fatal for many. By the end of the day, 41 people had lost their lives, including 11 staff members who were in the car park at the local Tambo Memorial Hospital.
Okay, not by the end of the day, the death toll grew over a few weeks.
Located just 330 feet away. The hospital also suffered extensive damage, with part of the building collapsing and even part of the roof collapsing. Many people were injured. And while they were grateful to be alive, victims were horribly burnt with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. Some were scarred from head to toe. The explosion left the community in shock and mourning as friends and families grappled with the sudden and violent loss of their loved ones. A few days later, the community got together and held a vigil to mourn the victims. Candles were lit and hymns were sung, but the feeling of avoidable, tragic loss was strong in the air. The 32-year-old truck driver was initially arrested and charged with culpable homicide and negligence.
What?
However, as the investigation unfolded, it was clear that he had acted with professionalism and urgency.
I was about to say, I don't know what fuck. That's the most police thing in the world, right? Police barely show up, don't know a fucking thing, and then they're like, yeah, he was trying to get me. Nah, it's probably his fault. We're just gonna arrest him.
Probably more than the police and the fire department.
I'd say.
He had tried desperately to secure the area and warn people of danger, and even passed out from inhaling the fumes himself. The real fault lay in the inadequate, or should I say, non-existent police response, as well as poor signage around the bridge. There was only one sign on either end of the bridge that would show the height restrictions, and these were covered in rust and dirt, and there was no other signs to indicate the potential hazard. The charges against the driver were eventually dropped due to insufficient evidence. This horrific accident led to widespread grief and extensive property damage. There was a public outcry for stricter regulations and better oversight of hazardous material transportation, but the tragedy underscored the urgent need for improved safety measures to prevent such disasters from occurring again. This tragedy was compounded by the combination of poor management, lack of police presence, and inadequate warnings that ultimately culminated in a preventable tragedy. The crowd should have not been allowed to get that close or even gather at all. Who gathers to watch a truck tanker on fire? I've no idea. If the police had attended, they could have dispersed the crowd, sending them far, far back, meaning that nobody would have lost their lives. Yes, I think that everyone there who knew what was happening and knew of the danger and still chose to hang around is also partly to blame. But some people were unaware of the extent of the danger, or they were just going about their day-to-day. This could have all been avoided, and 41 people would have been able to enjoy Christmas with their families, but instead they were dragged into morgues to identify their bodies, ruining Christmas forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this reaction video. Let me just find a show. This is brighter. There you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.